Boston Celtics get Mike Muscala at the trade deadline and do nothing else. I think Brad Stevens is holding a card that he can play that made him a little bit conservative at the trade deadline, plus the deal that they didn't do, the deal that got rejected, and what other teams did. Are they going to be a little bit more of a challenge for the Boston Celtics in the playoffs? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'm here for you every day of the week, Monday through Friday, every business day, I suppose, with a free, fresh podcast drop directly to your device if you're a subscriber. So make sure you're subscribed so you can get that show as soon as it drops. You can do that on YouTube as well. Ring the bell, get notified when I drop a new video. Video version of this is fun. And a lot of Celtics fans are in the comments talking about the podcast, talking about the Celtics, so it's a good growing community there. I'm John Karalis, formerly a professional basketball player overseas. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I'm also hosting a live Q&A and discussion with Kendrick Perkins about his new book on February 21st at the Armory in Somerville. If you're local in the Boston area, come on over to the Armory in Somerville on the 21st. Talk to me, talk to Kendrick Perkins about his new book about the Celtics, all that stuff. It's going to be fun. There's a live Q&A there as well. All right, Mike Muscala is now a Boston Celtic. That's the move the Celtics made, the only move the Celtics made on a day where 28 of the 30 NBA teams made some sort of deal. The Celtics made one. So we're going to talk about that, why they only made one. We're going to do that with Tom Westerholm, Tom_NBA. What's going on, my man Tom?
I'm just feeling remarkably correct, you know, like we were. That's pretty much exactly what well, mostly. Actually, I can't believe the Nets traded Kevin Durant.
Yeah, a lot has happened since we last spoke.
Yeah, and I know you did a podcast on it, but I just wanted to say, why your team just got good, and I understand that he has a lot of power here, but you just won one of these staring contests. Look, whatever. Do your thing. This certainly doesn't hurt the Celtics at all to have a. It's just okay.
Great for Boston. Here goes another competitor. Just take that fourth seed out and just flush it down the toilet and just bump everybody else up, and there we go.
I'm look, the Nets could be fun and frisky, and they got a lot of good players, and they're just not the team, a contender anymore.
Yeah. Get Kenny Atkinson back in there, get them to be fun again, and everybody can root for the now if everybody says, oh, you know what? Okay, I hope Brooklyn figures this out. I can see Boston fans going over to Brooklyn and be like, putting your arm around Brooklyn Nets fans and be like, we tried to tell you, but look, welcome to the club.
It's coming for Dallas too. I mean,
yeah. I've been trying to tell Nick Angstead and the Locked On Mavericks people, you guys understand what's about to happen, because
everybody in Cleveland tried to warn Boston people, and Boston people were like, nah, it'll be fine.
Right,
he just needed to change his scenery, and then Boston people tried to warn Brooklyn people, and Brooklyn people were like, nah, he just hated Boston, he just hated you guys. It's no, dude,
nope.
That's not what's going on here. Sorry,
and
guys.
Immediately, it took 2 days for not his fault, not his responsibility, revisionist history, and already laying the groundwork to get out of there. Because one of the very first things he said was talking about how what he would have cherished and should have been talking about was something else, but now he has to refocus on what's going on in Dallas. Typical Kyrie, typical stuff. We know what's happening. He's talking about I'm glad Kevin Durant got out of there. Like I tweeted out, they set the building on fire, and then we're like, oh, phew, glad we got out of that burning building. And it was 95% Kyrie, but sorry, Kevin Durant, you kind of got guilty by association. That's just how it works with Kyrie. It's
Yep.
but we're not here to talk about Kyrie, man. This is not the Kyrie podcast. This is not Locked On Mavs. This is not Locked On.
Locked on Kyrie. Yeah.
I mean, it's Locked On laugh at everybody who tries to think that Kyrie is going to be the answer to their problems.
Yeah.
But the Celtics brought in a big
The Celtics
man.
brought in the answer to their problems. That's Mike
right.
Muscala.
Mike, hey, look, and you're right. We tried to tell everybody, if you're a regular listener to this podcast or viewer, and you come out of this going like, that's it, that's all the Celtics did, then you're not really paying attention, because we've been trying to tell you all along, Celtics might not do anything. There really doesn't look like they're going to do much. And here it was, Mike Muscala, who, hey, you know what? It's what were we talking about the other day? Justin Jackson, make room and, play the game. And in like a little tweak to that, they moved Justin Jackson and they brought in Mike Muscala. Later on, we can talk about B-Rob's report that they offered Gallinari and Pritchard to San Antonio for Jakob Poeltl. We can talk about buyout market, all the other stuff. But Muscala, I think, is a nice deal. It helps them very much in the regular season. I'm not so sure this is a playoff deal, but that's not what the Celtics have been looking for. They've been looking for regular season help. And I think to get a guy that helps you when Al Horford has to sit on a back-to-back, that's a nice deal for them. And I will also throw in here, not once in any of my Q&As, not once in any of my answers, not once in any of the rumors did Mike Muscala's name come up at all in any of this. But hey, solid move. Nothing to get excited about, but you turn Justin Jackson, who never plays, into Mike Muscala, who'll probably play some. And best case scenario, what? He supplants Luke Cornett. Worst case scenario, you got another guy who's not going to play, but we know he can play. So
Yeah.
that's that. Getting a guy who can play for a guy who doesn't is a win, no matter what.
My little Mike Muscala fun facts that I found, and I tweeted it out too. But if you look at the on-off numbers for the Thunder, like Muscala didn't play that much, right? He was like playing like 15 minutes a game for them, like not that much. But if you look at the on-off numbers, when he played with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Thunder outscored opponents by almost 13 points per 100 possessions with Muscala and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the floor and Mike Muscala off the floor, they were outscored by about 3 points. Like a 16-point difference is what I'm saying that the Celtics are getting. In
Who's the real MVP over there? They should be devastated. A fleecing.
I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty obvious. No, but I mean, look, nice. I think Muscala, I think he could be a nice big player for them, I guess. I think if you just look at the way that the Celtics play when they are making 3-pointers, and that is what Muscala is going to bring. Is, he's a sharp shooting big. He loves to do that. He's shooting almost 40% this year. He finds spaces on the floor. There were a couple possessions in that Sixers game where Luke Cornett was spaced to the 3-point line, where he was out in the corner, just kind of standing over there. Luke Cornett over there is not spacing the floor for anybody. It's very obvious who's sagging when Luke Cornett is over there. With Muscala, that you either have to respect that, or you have to pay attention at least. Even if you don't respect it, that's the shot the Celtics get, and that's a good shot. That's an open 3 for a shooter. So, I think when just the way the Celtics play when they are hitting threes is almost unstoppable. We just saw them beat a healthy Sixers team because they were making so many 3-pointers. Even though Jaylen sat most of the game, Tatum played terrible. They were so shorthanded. The reason they won that game is because they made so many threes. That's who this team is. They are killers when they are making threes. They are almost unbeatable. And they just added a big who can shoot.
They won that game because they were making so many threes, but it was who was making the threes. It's that
right.
when and look,
exactly.
I don't want to call that a playoff win, but what are teams going to try to take away? Jaylen and Jayson and say, you guys beat us. The 3rd seed in the East, Now, granted, if this was a playoff scenario, they might have played with a little bit different energy. Fine. But this was a good team that came in, and Tatum didn't play well, and Jaylen played 18 minutes before breaking his face. Sorry, I didn't mean to be flippant about that.
Look,
but
every word you said is accurate. Well,
It's
the only thing that you said that's wrong is you said he broke his face. Tatum broke his face.
His face, before his face was broken
by Jayson Tatum. Yes,
by Jayson Tatum.
Now we are being flippant, and I apologize.
Blake Griffin hit threes. Grant Williams hit threes. Sam Hauser hit threes. Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, the guys that are going to get those open shots, because if you double in a normal situation, you're doubling Jaylen, you're doubling Jayson. They're going to get off the ball, and when they hit the other guys, when they create the space, and those other guys are in that area to make a team pay, that's the type of shot. That's where Mike Muscala is going to live. That's the type of shot he's going to get. So if he is in the game, and that's going to open up either space for those other guys to drive, or if you sag off them, that's exactly the type of player and exactly the type of shot that will win Boston games, and that will get Boston back to scoring 140 points like they did at the beginning of the season. I said it after that win against the Sixers. That was the exact performance from the Celtics, minus the 2 stars that was making them score 140 points a game. You get actual normal performances from Tatum and Brown, that's a 140-point performance. It's just that they came up with 16 points in a 106. So that's exactly right. So he fits very well in a depth, in Boston's depth. He enhances Boston's depth. That's perfect. Let's talk a little bit more about that and talk about maybe the trade that they didn't make and some other things that are happening around the league in just a moment. First, today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. I literally was just talking to my significant other, and she was saying, like, she was playing on her phone on the couch, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I got so many subscriptions. I got to start canceling these things. I literally said to her, you got to get Rocket Money. We advertise for it on Locked On. So we now have another subscriber to Rocket Money, because she's just sitting there losing her mind thinking about how much money she's spending on subscriptions that we don't use anymore. The average person has about 12 subscriptions. So that's a lot. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. It can easily identify your subscriptions for you, and you can stop paying the ones that you don't want. You find the one you don't want, you press cancel. Rocket Money cancels it. You don't have to go on to waiting online, waiting on a phone. You don't have to get the constant emails begging you to stay. Rocket Money handles it. So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions. Manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Head on over to Locked On NBA. I host it on Wednesdays. I also hosted a special trade deadline show. It's on the YouTube page if you missed it. It's 2+ hours of us talking about all the deals as they happened. It was a lot of fun. But Locked On NBA is a great show covering the whole league. Again, I'm on Wednesdays. So check it out, even if you're checking it out on Wednesdays. Tom, we'll bring Tom back in here. The Celtics only did that one deal. They still have an open roster spot. And I think the one thing out of this trade deadline that stands out to me is how little the top teams did. Everyone else, all of these deals were all kind of shuffling, supporting cast, minus Kyrie and KD. But there's a lot of these deals that were just supporting cast. Let's try to get Eric Gordon in here and Luke Kennard over here. And these guys, it's teams that are chasing, trying to figure out a way to break into that top or challenge those top teams. Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, they barely did much. Denver barely did anything, although I think Thomas Bryant is a underrated pickup. But those teams barely did much. And I think what this is going to do is create a buyout market that's going to be a little more robust than usual. And we might see even more guys hit the buyout market than usual. The Celtics do have a $3.2 million disabled player exception. By the way, Muscala was acquired using the traded player exception for Dennis Schroeder. So that was part of the how they got him. So that's gone. But the disabled player exception, that 3.2 million, you can use that to actually sign a player. It's a little different than the other exceptions. I think the Celtics are in a really good spot if some good names come about, that when the buyout market hits and those guys are looking for opportunities and money, the Celtics have more money. The Celtics have some decent opportunity here. And if you're looking for the ring, it's the best team in the league. I think the Celtics are actually in a good spot. And that might contribute to why they didn't do more at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, like, if Brad had like kind of a temperature of what the deadline was going to be like if he kind of knew, like, okay, like, teams might not do that much. I mean, it was interesting too. I mean, just as a brief aside, it was interesting to see, like, the Celtics are now kind of the high water mark that people are trying to get to, right? Like, you see, like, the Bucks go out and get Jay Crowder. You see the guy that Philly did go get was Jalen McDaniels, who Tatum is just, just demolishes that guy every time they play. But I don't know, maybe it works better in the Sixers system somehow. I don't know.
Throw Embiid behind him instead of Plumlee, and maybe who knows?
I don't know. I kind of think
I'm trying.
Those guys.
I'm trying.
You're trying so much harder than Joel Embiid tries sometimes. But like, no, but I do think that, like, look, the buyout market, I think you're right. I think that is going to be where if the Celtics make any kind of impact, that's where it's going to have to be. And if you're, like you said, if you're a player who wants to showcase himself, yes, you want to be on the Celtics. This team is on national TV all the time. They're going to have a deep presumably they're going to have a deep playoff run. There's going to be a lot of games, a lot of opportunities, a lot of chances for somebody in front of you to twist his ankle and miss like the second half. And here's your chance to shine. And, like, there's just all these chances. Like, plus it's going to be a little bit more money than other contenders can offer you. It's just like that little bit. Brad having that tool in his tool belt, after all these, in addition to all these good players, maybe the best role player in the league in Derek White, maybe the sixth man of the year in Malcolm Brogdon. And then also, oh, by the way, he didn't have to give anything up to go get Mike Muscala, and now he's got one of the best buyout, one of the best buyout situations in what promises to be one of the better buyout markets. I mean, it's a lot of things coming up Brad Stevens all at once.
Yeah, it's coming up Millhouse for Brad Stevens. I do think that not only does opportunity exist for these guys because of everything you said, Jaylen Brown is hurt, so you know that you can come in, and if you're a wing, then you get a little bit more chance there. You know that, hey, Tatum has been playing a lot. They might be trying to rest him, so they're going to be looking for guys to step in over the course of the regular season. And so there is going to be playing time over here for these guys. There is going to be regular season playing time. And like you said, so much of it is on national TV. Like, for example, I had the Lakers and Bucks game on as I was preparing for the podcast, and they were all crapping all over Thomas Bryant, saying he wanted a trade. And I know it's funny. Like, you can make fun of Thomas, but you're like, who the hell is Thomas Bryant to request a trade? But hey, he wants he's got a contract. He's an unrestricted free agent. He wants to go out there and be seen as a contributor. So yeah, if you weren't in the minutes and you're on a crappy team and you're just watching LeBron, pad his stats, then like, yeah. So these guys wanting to show themselves is a real thing. And if Boston can say, you have a chance to be a champion, you have a chance to make a little extra money while you're doing it, and we've got playing time for you. So when this is over, maybe people can be like, you know what? This guy, I don't know, Will Barton, we'll just say, because he's a name that I saw. Will Barton actually made a contribution to a good team that won a championship. Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in. Let's see if we can get a 2-year contract. You know what? That's a 2-year contract you didn't have before.
Yep.
So that's a real draw. I think
that's a 2-year contract at 32, you know?
Yep. Right. And even if it's a minimum deal at that age with that service time, that's significant. I mean, that's that's closer to like 3-4 million, whatever it is. It's up there. So I think this is meaningful. And so there wasn't the need to throw 5 second-round picks. When did all of a sudden 5 second-round picks become the trade currency in the NBA? This has been, just side note, what a dumb day this was in that regard. I've never seen so many second-round picks just thrown around. What the hell? Who came up with this 5 second-round pick? And everybody was just like, oh, I like that. I'll take 5 second-round picks. It's insane.
You tweeted that. I tweeted this too. Like, literally, probably the front runner for MVP of the NBA right now was a second-round pick. Right. One of the front runners for Sixth Man of the Year was a second-round pick. Like, sure, the second round is a crapshoot, but it's not nothing. Like, even the Celtics this past year, JD Davison, like, yeah, he's not like, he's not going to play this season, but you look at what he's doing in Maine and it's like, this kid's a freak athlete who's dishing out like 10, 12, 15 assists. Like,
yeah,
there's stuff there. Like,
second round picks are, they're the weirdest thing in the NBA because they're simultaneously meaningless and valuable. Because you can say, well, you can just buy a second round pick. Like, yeah, okay, you can buy a second round pick, but that is spending money. You are asking guys to, like, you're asking your owner
Crowder and get 5 of them. You don't have to buy it at all.
But like, if you're going to make a trade for a player and take him into a traded player exception, second round pick is very helpful in that situation because you got to send it out, and every once in a while you hit on a second rounder and you say, okay. And not only that, you get the right second rounders somewhere in the top of the second round. If you can get in there, the value of a draft pick is like very high until like the end of the first round, when teams at the very end, like the bottom, what would you say, 5 picks or so, are sitting there like, oh God, I'm locked into this guaranteed contract for a guy that really has no discernible talent level difference than the guys at the top of the second round. And those guys you can negotiate contracts with. So that is extraordinarily valuable to a team. So you can't just tell me second rounders mean nothing. I get that they're not like huge, big, gigantic trade chips or anything, but they like you said, they're not nothing. They have value and teams want them, and teams that have them can make use of them. Yeah. So I didn't even forget what my original point was, but the fact that these second round picks were getting thrown around out there is crazy. Let's take a break and come back and talk about the deal that didn't get done, apparently, the Jakob Poeltl deal, and some of the other stuff that happened around the trade deadline here. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. You got apps at your Super Bowl party. We got an app for your Super Bowl party. It's the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We're psyched to have FanDuel Sportsbook on as our official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, because we're number one in the podcast industry. They're number one in the betting industry. Perfect match. And you, my dear listener and viewer, get to benefit, especially if you're new to FanDuel, because you can download the FanDuel app right now, bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet, and you'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. And FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. And the FanDuel Sportsbook app, super safe, secure, very extraordinarily easy to use. And best of all, you can get paid instantly when you win. You want your money, they'll give it to you. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. This is very important. You got to do it at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's where you claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel. the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, of the Locked On Podcast Network. We just ask you to please gamble responsibly. So our good friend Brian Robb reporting on Mass Live that the Celtics offered up the deal that we were talking about, Gallinari, Peyton Pritchard, and couple of second-round picks for Jakob Poeltl, taking a swing. Never anticipated that was going to be enough, and lo and behold, it was not. The Spurs got a first-rounder out of it, and it was probably more valuable, even though they got Khem Birch. But it's not like Khem Birch is like throw them all in a pile. Like outside of the NBA, I know. I'm sorry, listener, Celtics fan, you're going to lose your mind when you say, "What are you talking about? Peyton Pritchard is awesome." I'm sorry. Around the league, he's not exactly viewed as highly as he is in Boston. That's just how it is. So they wanted that first round pick. That was important to them. They got it. To me, Tom, feels like a half-hearted effort. Feels like they said, all right, let's get out there. Let's get into the Poeltl sweepstakes. If we can get them, what does it cost us? Second round picks, as we just established, totally meaningless and have no value. Would have cost them a couple second round picks.
Have never once turned into a good
Never
player.
once turned into anything. Why do people even spend their time discussing them? Gallinari, still on the team. Surprisingly still on the team, Tom. I got to say, I'm surprised considering the potential tax savings for this team.
Yeah.
Surprised that he's still on this team. And not because I think they're counting, their pennies or anything, but like this is it felt like a pretty smart financial move. Like here's a guy that makes $6 million and is just sitting. You're not getting any use out of him. You're this high over the tax. The savings would be exponential. I didn't do the math to figure out what the savings were, but it would have been in the tens of millions of dollars, real actual dollars. Why not? I mean, is it for them to be able to like flex and be like, hey, you guys talked a lot of smack about us over the past few years. Here we are. We're not going to cut this guy. We're going to keep him. We believe in him and blah, blah, blah. We're going to use him next year. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe that's what it is. But it just feels like would have been good business, smart business. But hey, I mean, it doesn't matter to me because it's not my money. But
right.
I threw a lot of stuff at you there. Respond to all of it. You've got 45 seconds. Go.
Well, no, I mean, I think the interesting thing to me with Gallo is like, I do wonder if the Celtics are, look, this could not be less reporting, right? But I do wonder, I mean, are the Celtics privy to information about how he's doing that made them kind of want to keep him around? Like
maybe, I mean, that is possible.
Like we don't like, no expectation when he's going to come back, but like if he did come back before the postseason, that's a 6'10" shooter. Just like, here you go, bang. Like, hello. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's not nothing. And I look,
could he get back in time for like the conference finals or the finals?
Oh, I mean, more importantly, could he reclaim his starting spot from Sam Hauser? But I do think like, it's plausible, right? Like if all of a sudden you're just like, the Eastern Conference semifinals game 2. Oh yeah, by the way, Danilo Gallinari is going to play like 5 minutes, 10 minutes today. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's a fun little wrinkle that nobody saw coming.
I mean, what if he does come back? What if he gets a shot? What if they need like they're down 2 and they just need to put a bunch of shooters out there and it's Gallinari is one of them. You just need somebody with some size to go out there and shoot. And they say, okay, here's Muscala, Danilo Gallinari, and Al Horford. We're going to go super, super big with a bunch of guys who can get this shot off and be like, all right, here you go. Guard them. Who knows? So, yeah, I don't think that they ever were really serious about Jakob Poeltl.
No. And I think like, and we knew that, right? Like they were never going to Stepien themselves with Jakob Poeltl. Like, I'm sorry.
Right.
He's fine. But like it's this whole kind of social media culture that has kind of sprung up around the trade deadline that just makes it like, if you don't make trades, what are you doing? Everybody's going to pass you right by. And it's like Jakob
Right.
Poeltl going to the Raptors is not going to make the Raptors pass anybody by. Jakob Poeltl coming to the Celtics was not like, it was not, that wasn't the big thing that they needed. And so, yeah, look, if you could get him for like a couple second round picks, like, if you could say to the Spurs, we'll give you 2 second round picks, and the Spurs were like, actually, we want 5, you could be like, okay, I guess. But
Yeah.
like, as soon as a first round pick was involved, as soon as it was clear that the Spurs were going to get their asking price of a first round pick, no, the Celtics just weren't going to be in on that.
I would love for it to have been like the Spurs saying, "Hey, Brad, we want 5 second round picks," like 2 days ago, and Brad saying, 5 second round picks?
What are you,
That
crazy?
never happens. What are you, insane? I'm not going to be the person who does. No one's ever going to trade 5 second round picks. That's a dumb thing to do. And then boom, 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 boom. Like 30 some odd second round picks moved in the trade deadline. One of the most amazing,
Crazy.
just incredible, incredible days. Does Jay Crowder going to the Bucks move any needles for you as far as they're concerned? Do you sit there and you go, "Ooh, that could be a problem for Boston"?
No, not really. Like, I mean, and that's, I
Pain
think,
look on your face, like.
well, the thing is, I always liked Jay Crowder. Like, I liked talking to him. I don't know.
I do like Jay Crowder. I do.
I don't want to just trash him, but no, I mean, look, I think when you look at the Bucks team, I think they could certainly beat the Celtics, right? Like, they're a good team. Like, Giannis
Well, yeah.
Antetokounmpo is a great player, but the acquisition of Jay Crowder to me does not make them more or less likely to win a playoff series against against the Celtics team. Like, I just think he's like a fine role player. And he gives them some size and everything, but I mean, he's also not really the kind of wing that, I don't know. I don't think he's really going to give Tatum that much trouble. Like, he's not, I don't know, like, he's strong, but like, Tatum's also kind of gotten like this quick first step type thing. Like, I don't think Crowder is going to have a lot for him with that, or the Celtics could just screen him off and, do that anyway. Like, I don't think Jay Crowder moves the needle that much. And I like him, but probably not in this case.
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to you maybe remove a Grayson Allen gigantic target for the defense to go after. You take him off the floor and you put Crowder on the floor. And maybe
and then you limit your shooting though. Like, it's not perfect.
Sure. It's not perfect, but I think for a team like Milwaukee, you say, look, it's, I mean, whatever with the second round picks, but you you put a guy out there that, first of all, definitely has an edge, that is not afraid of the moment, right? He's not afraid of the moment, right? And a little bit of an instigator, so could get under the skin of an opponent, and maybe there's a little Horford effect, having missed the half the season, and then he's going to come in with some fresh legs, and maybe when the conference finals comes around, he's just got that little extra juice that gets him to slide into position to take a charge, versus it being a blocking call or something like that. And hey, he's been known to get hot. He's a very, very streaky shooter, but he has been known to get hot. And you say, hey, if you got the timing right, and he's not the obvious, hey, I'm going to switch and attack Jay Crowder because he's strong, and I think he'll body you and he'll be able to get away with some stuff physically. It's not a game-changing move for Milwaukee. Not a game changer at all. But it does help. I think it does help. And maybe it won't help that much, but considering what the Celtics were able to do to Milwaukee last playoffs, having a guy out there that's less of a target with the edge that he has, not bad. I think that's a nice move for them.
Right. And I mean, if you look at how he adds to Milwaukee's, like big three type, like that's all of a sudden that group is very big, like very long. very versatile and switchable. Like you said, it's certainly not gonna it's certainly gonna help them. To me, it doesn't like it. I just don't really see it kind of changing my evaluations of Celtics Bucks,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being stubborn. I don't know. like I I just think that this Celtics team is probably good enough to counteract um
Sure.
a Jay Crowder type move.
Sure.
But there's a lot of versatility there. There's a lot of big defenders in that lineup.
Yeah, they got some size and some strength. You talked about Philly. That move is, I mean, it adds a little bit of size. Maybe like I said, maybe with Joel Embiid behind him, it can get something. You can get a little bit better, a little bit, maybe with a little bit more. No, you're not.
Sure.
I'm not. I'm not convincing you at all. You're
Jaylen,
like,
I just watched
sure.
Tatum put up 51 on Jaylen McDaniels.
Yeah. So
I don't see it, man. I just watched Tatum put up 51 on Jaylen McDaniels, and I just watched the Sixers lose to the Celtics while Tatum shot like 5 for 15 or whatever. Yeah, that's just
yeah.
Philly's gonna have to show me before they move me, for the
That
foreseeable future.
okay, fair enough. Um, so that's the East. I still think the Celtics are on top of the East. Let's just briefly go west and talk about Phoenix and KD and all that. Do you think suddenly it's now Phoenix as the top threat out in the West, or is it still like Denver? Is it somebody else?
I mean, I want to see it, right? But it's certainly plausible. I mean, you just the firepower on that team is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be. I mean, it's going to be pretty fun to watch. I think if you look at Denver, if you just look at how great Jokic has been and how clearly ahead above just about anybody else in the NBA he has been this season. I mean, I certainly don't think that Phoenix is now head and shoulders above everybody else. But I do think, I mean, look, I think this probably vaults them up into that echelon of contenders where they were before, right?
Yep.
And yeah, it's been those pairings. I've gotten really bored with superstars kind of moving around to where it's okay, James Harden is on a new team. Wow, great! I can't wait to see what Harden looks like in a Sixers uniform. But KD next to Devin Booker is kind of ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All
With
right,
Chris
let's
Paul
watch
as the
this one.
point guard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
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 So
And,
we'll see. I mean, we'll see what they decimated their depth, and I think that will matter. And especially, a couple of those guys are not young particularly,
Mhm. Sure.
but yeah, I think you have to take Phoenix a lot more seriously now, obviously.
Yeah, I would say so. And with Ayton back there, I think I'm surprised. They kept Ayton, but he seemed like he would be willing to go anywhere besides Phoenix,
Yeah.
considering. But look, this move,
Which really would have made him the perfect trade for Durant, right?
Yeah.
Durant only wanted to go to Phoenix.
Yeah, right. But I think maybe you look at it and you say, okay, I'm going to roll with this and see if I can't accumulate a little bit of hardware and see. I still don't think they are. I don't think they're going to win the championship, but that team suddenly becomes really. I mean, how do you stop that team? Defensively, I'm going to be curious about them. That's going to be
Yeah.
a real issue, especially come playoff time and everything gets to be more physical and more fouling is allowed. So, but they definitely move closer to the top of the West. It's amazing. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what we were seeing. I was sitting there at the Garden trying to write. So people, I write a game report and I write a column after each game. And as I was writing the column, I'm just because earlier in the day, that was the Utah deal.
Right.
D'Angelo Russell, Mike Conley, and that deal. And I was like, okay, if deals are starting to happen, let me just kind of go back, and I'm refreshing Twitter, and it's like, there's always like a little trickle. I'm like, geez, things are starting to happen. What's going on? It's like 1 a.m. And then the Kevin Durant thing happened. I'm standing there. I'm sitting there by myself and empty. The building is empty except for the crew cleaning things up. And all of a sudden I just yell out, "Oh my God." And I just start laughing, and people are going to be like, what is with this guy? What happened to him? It was wild. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Especially because I thought like they were going to roll with KD through the rest of the season and then maybe revisit it over the summer. But Phoenix, tough, man. This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Final trade deadline thoughts. Anything good?
No, I mean, it was kind of the perfect trade deadline for people like you and me, where we write about the Celtics and they did a small little move, so we had some content, and then everybody else went crazy, and we got to mostly watch everybody else go insane, right? Like, it was 10 out of 10. Let's do that again next year.
a wild day.
But
where
next year it'll be 6 picks.
They need to institute a third round, and it's only picks that can be traded.
Right.
All right, Tom. Appreciate you hopping on.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Down Westerholm, everybody. Tom_NBA on Twitter. Thanks for listening. This has been a wild little ride. Trade deadline is over. We know what the Celtics have now, but as we said, more to come. Brad Stevens is talking Friday morning at the practice facility, so I will be there. We'll see what he says. So follow me on Twitter at John_Karalis, or read my work at Boston Sports Journal. I will definitely have everything that you need to know there. Probably we'll do a bonus podcast after the Celtics Hornets game, unless it turns out to be just an embarrassing debacle, in which case no one's going to want to hear about that. So I won't podcast about it, but generally I will do that, especially because I'll probably want to share with you what Brad Stevens said. So all of that is going to come in a bonus podcast. So check it out. Subscribe. This way you'll know exactly when I drop it. And if you are a subscriber, especially on the YouTube page, hop into those comments. But if you are a subscriber, I would love it if you share the podcast. Tell your friends and everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.